Finally. Okay. Hi there. Thanks
Hey,
very much.
brother.
Yes, brother. Glad to meet you properly, like on the video at least.
Blessings. Great to see you. Great to see you. Great to feel your energy. Great to meet you as well.
Yes, likewise. Grateful that we can have this moment now, finally.
Yes, indeed. And you're back in London.
Exactly, yes. I was in France for 12 days and returned only on Friday, just a few days ago. So I'm grateful to be in England and got a lot of insights by being in France, got a lot of information that I needed from changing my location. And yeah.
Awesome. How did your time go there? How did your time go in France? What were some highlights for you?
Um, Firstly, meeting a urine therapist like myself, and I stayed and got some insights for a few days about some eye washing, I did with my elixir.
Hmm.
Yeah, very good for the eyes, given how much we use them for writing and talking and scrolling. So, yeah, very beneficial to learn something like that I already had at my disposal that I wasn't using.
Wow. So even up until this point, even with all that you've learned, Brother Sam, you,
Yes.
you still hadn't, you're saying there was still a lot more for you to learn in that aspect.
Yeah, and maybe to relearn or also things that I'd already been aware of, but you're not putting into practice, essentially. Like you need sometimes an alarm call of visiting someone who lives, in a way that you admire, and so you can pass things to each other, of techniques that you both use.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome. So we actually have an iridologist. We have an iridologist in the chat. Her name is Tuche. She said, it's lovely to see us both here. Shout out to Tuche. So
wonderful.
she knows a lot about the eyes. So what is the aspect of the eyes that you say is so key when it comes to urine therapy?
Yes, given that she gave me two pieces of information, two parts, but the first part was like I drink from my nose, my elixir, right? And currently it's not every day, but it needs to be every day because when it is, it starts your day where you have certain processes, and in that way, when I stayed with my friend in France, I got information that I needed of what she's doing, and I'm saying, okay, that's a good way to start the day, to include that in my practices. So yeah, she also showed me about moving the eyes while they're in the elixir. So you put the little, she had eye cups, especially shaped cups, very small. You put elixir in both of them, and then you do certain movements like left, right, four times, up and down, four times diagonal in the elixir while your eyes are open.
Hmm.
That I've already done drops recently, but not to that extent of having them in the elixir. Just like in the womb,
Hmm.
your eyes will be open at times with
Yeah.
your amniotic fluid, so it's equally the same, really, of putting them in your eyes, putting elixir in your nose, putting elixir in your mouth, in your ears. It's totally logical to return to that womb benefit of self-healing, really.
So returning to the womb, like going back to the womb right
Yes.
before we were born. So it's almost like a rebirthing, like going back, to the amniotic fluid, to the
Yep.
fluid,
Yep.
you know, before our birth. Wow, this is powerful. So when you're doing it, if it's particularly aged, if it's evolved, does it burn? Does it hurt? Is there pain involved?
Yeah, I think I only did the fresh one, so I didn't get to do the aged. The mature. She mentioned the mature might sting, and I can imagine that it does because after a while it becomes, more a bit more pungent, right? And so you get that stinging effect, as it reacts to the oxygen, and yeah. So I felt that it didn't. The fresh one is delightful. It feels absolutely wonderful.
Okay. And
So
if you do have that burning effect, like the stinging effect, doesn't mean that it's a negative thing. It just means it's a more powerful or a more potent thing. Like, how do you know that it's something that's okay to do if it's really burning? Yeah.
I'd say that you're checking on your own. your own state of being and how you are as a person, what you're eating and drinking and consuming. Um, if you're familiar with the elixir and its levels, then there'll be absolutely no issue how mature it is and if it stings. Yeah, but for some people at the beginning, they might find that too much if they're not in tune, or maybe they're not looking after themselves correctly. They might not be ready for that kind of impact, you know?
Right, right. And thank you for illustrating that, Brother Samuel, when you talk about, at the beginning, if you're at the beginning, can you
Yeah.
take us back to the beginning, like to the beginning of your journey when you came into these learnings and you came into more discerning of these fluids, these bodily fluids that have been so stigmatized, so cast down,
Yeah.
so kind of really just ridiculed, really just, criticized, judged, feared. There's a lot of, stigma around it. So can you talk to us about how you came into this knowledge and
Uh-huh.
into this wisdom of your body?
Please. Yeah. I mean, essentially, when I was in my early 20s and I met with Kelly Ra, who I've co-written 3 books with now. I heard you mention you've read the first book, the original
Yeah,
one years ago. So we've written a follow-up to that one, and we've written my autobiography
yeah,
together. In the last year, we've written the two, and from him really was what he showed me. He gave me a book, The Golden Fountain, to look at, and I'd already seen the book a few years earlier, and it took me maybe once he gave me the book a second time. This was now. I was taking my time to not drink it, in that way. I was doing different things at the time, and I was putting it off, saying, well, I've got this going on, that going on, and the universe was calling me to get closer to him in different ways, giving me signals that I needed to learn from Kelly and to trust him. So after a little while, I was in the moment where I felt the inspiration was the moment to drink it, after a few months, and that was in a hot place next to the sea. And once I actually decided to go for it, and get past the conditionings of drinking your own pee, and I drank some through the mouth. This was, and I just felt a complete like protection and a complete enhancement of my being. That it was accelerated. It was receiving the sun, the oxygen. That I wasn't hungry. Yeah, immediately I sensed that, and that was the day I started. And I haven't stopped. Like, I haven't been able to, I haven't wanted to stop since I've known about it. It's 25 years ago.
and
Um,
how young were you then?
I was about 22.
Okay, so 22 is when you started. That was the initial beginning.
Yeah, 22, just about 23 when I actually, yeah, my birthday around that time.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I initially started, and then I didn't stop after that. Like, there have been gaps, of course, over the years, but that's more of a situation I was in. Just one gap where I didn't have it for a few years in my 30s. But aside from that, yeah, I've known about it all along. I recognized it immediately. And then that was only the mouth. I hadn't even sampled the nose yet at that point.
Okay.
That was
Okay.
a couple of months later, the nose began.
Got it. Got it. And so, what do you feel, Brother Sam, like that it gave you that you couldn't get anywhere else? Like what, I mean, people do all kinds of things, like when it comes to taking substances, when it comes to doing different, drugs, different psychedelics, working with plant medicines, different types of,
Huh?
inebriation, intoxication, like all sorts of situations with all sorts of different liquids and substances.
Yeah.
But when you're drinking from your own, elixir, as you put it, as you call it, drinking from your own cistern, the water from your own well, as you put it, what do you feel like it gave you that you couldn't find anywhere else that was so significant for you to do it every day of your life?
I'd also read about what the special book talks about urine, and the Golden Fountain, it's called. And it talks about after so many years, you get certain benefit after 1 year, after 2 years. So there were things that I was reading, and scientifically, the book talks about also benefits, and also spiritually through the water of Sri Shiva. There was the real divine side to the elixir that I also was able to receive through meeting Kelly Ra Saliba, who was inspiring about the elixir and inspired, and also about all the techniques we do. They were all intertwined, but they're all like giants in their own right. So the elixir was one of those giants, and the book said how much what it gives you and the advancement and the evolution it gives you. So all that information that I was receiving was being shown to be correct. So what it gave me was evidence that the elixir is designed from God. It is a gift. It took away like that tired feeling I was having at the time. Like, yes, I was 22, 23, but I was indulging in substances, right, around those times. Before I'd met Kelly, I was partying with my friends. So by about the same time of the year, the autumn, I started drinking my elixir. I'd been partying one more time with my friends to say goodbye, like to that vibe. And then I'd returned to Kelly and I've said to him, okay, I've had the elixir now. I feel illuminated. I feel the protection, the aura, the golden egg vibration you get around your aura. I felt that, and I can feel that my energy, my vibration is accelerated and more youthful immediately. So that was like verification of these, like, prophecies.
Hmm. And were there any other personal, like physical transformations? I know you said that you felt a lot more energy, a lot more vibration, a lot less stagnation, as it
Totally.
were. Was there a lot less constipation? Did it kind of purge your body in a way? Did it clear things out of your body? Did it clear things up, on your skin, on your, in your digestive system? Like, what were some of the physical changes that took place when you started using it more regularly?
Well, then I can talk about the nose perhaps as well.
Mhm.
As I began the mouth, say after within a month or two, I was starting to do the nose too, because we were getting, into that one technique that Kelly had discovered in the year 2000 himself, like not from a book. He discovered it from his own volition, his own inspiration. He'd found a way to drink through the nose. So for him, it was like his baby, in our baby, you can say, joined the crew, a new technique that no one had written about. We'd researched it. In the year 2000, we'd looked online. We didn't see anyone else had written anything about it. And even up to this day, I've never seen a book about nose drinking except our book, right? So even we went to the medical books and we researched all the medical library while I was at university. So we knew that it was ours, and we knew that we'd found something. So then when I started drinking from the nose, and we were also fasting, say intermittent fasting, we wouldn't eat until 4 p.m., from the night before, and we'd only have maybe some hemp seeds and elixir and nothing else. So by the time I got to 4 or 5 p.m., I'd often be going to the bathroom, to the toilet, and I'd be basically, yeah, there'd be nothing in me so much because I'm fasting. So I'd be going to the toilet, and the water would be getting all the way into my colon and flushing out of my colon.
Mhm.
Just automatically. I'd drink it through the nose, through the mouth, colon. And
Mhm.
I might let the beginning of and the end of it out. I just get the middle flow. That's what we used to do. We wouldn't catch the beginning or the end. We get the middle.
Mhm.
As we were quite new, I was quite new to it myself, to drinking elixir, and I was purging from the ecstasy and the things that I'd taken for 2 years prior. They had to come out of my body, and the elixir knew exactly what it needs to do. Once you drink through the nose, it tells your brain a lot of data, what's in your body, all the data really, and it goes. Elixir gets resent to certain places that need it most. So I really felt my colon was being flushed, and someone obese, someone addicted to pharmaceuticals or certain medications, that would be ideal for someone like that to drink,
Mhm.
to fast, to go vegan, and that they don't have to be vegan, but at least vegetarian. That would accelerate their weight loss or weight increase that they need rapidly by doing nose drinking of elixir alongside the various techniques that we recommend, not just elixir nose drinking, but that is a huge pillar of healing.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I have to tell you, you are a huge proponent in my life, Brother Sam. If you didn't know that already, you
Yeah,
are a huge proponent, like a huge catalyst for me in back in 2020, you know, that's when I started, you know, my Shivambu journey. You know, that's when I started this journey as well, because you were one of the first videos I saw with the nose drinking. Like you said, I'd never seen anybody else do it. It
yeah,
was a video with you and Kelly Raw, and you both had like wine glasses and you were tipping the wine glass, you know, through the nose. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's possible. You know, I didn't even know that was even possible. So I haven't done it with anything else but, you know, my own water. That's the only thing that I've done it with. But I
sure.
haven't experimented. I know you've experimented with the juice, with the wine, with all sorts of different liquids
Yeah.
through the nasal passageways, the sinus cavities. And I mean, it's just amazing what you've been able to do on that front. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a brilliant journey of sharing a magical and natural innate ability, and the benefits of it have been incredible. You know, even every single drink, they have different benefits, different codes that they really impact and lift you in different ways. You know, I've got to say, it's a great modality, and I want it to be shared, further and wider than it is at the moment. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you just for leading the charge in that way, you know, being on the front lines and just being one of the pioneers, you know, and the proponents for this practice, you know, for people to put things into practice. Because, you know, in your book as well, you talked about different things. Like I think you talked about Hatha Yoga. I think is as well in your autobiography, you talked about Sahaja Yoga. There was you know, someone that you were revering, like a goddess or a Mahadevi or someone that you revered, you and Kelly Ra would go to. And can you talk about that practice and how the two things intertwined with the
Yes.
urine therapy as well?
Please, yes. When I met Kelly, there was a naturally, different, unique abilities and practices were passed on to me. Several to name the main few. Sahaja Yoga meditation is one of them that was passed on to me when I met him. And yeah, in English, like yoga means union, in that way, and Sahaja Yoga means born with union, born with. Like it's the mechanism of your chakras that everyone has is born with them, as in we've all got the same mechanism within us, right? Of our design, and on a physical, on a spiritual, with the chakras, on a meridian level, on the nerves, all of the different layers. We're all identical in that way on a technical level, right? And so, yeah, Sahaja Yoga meditation has been a gift every day, really, because to know about your chakras in a safe and genuine practice where the person who's giving you the information is sharing that with you to raise and open on your own. You do it yourself with the right affirmations. You say the right affirmations on each chakra. Your first name's James, isn't it, right?
Jerome.
Oh, Jerome. Okay, thanks, Jerome. Um, yeah, you put your hands on the chakras and you say affirmations, and what you get is on your own, you're raising the Kundalini yourself. Like a lot of people might say they can do it for you, but only you can do it yourself. And it has to be, you have to be guided what to say. In English, affirmations, the Kundalini hears them and she rises through the central channel. And the chakra here opens again, the one that was closed when you got to like your teenage years, the chakra closes really because of the ego. But during your childhood years, it's open and it slowly shuts, as the ego develops, right? But when it's open, the Kundalini is flowing through everyone, through children. They're fully aware, animals on a certain degree are aware of the vibrations of love, of innocence that flows from everyone. But if your chakras are closed in that way, if the seventh one is shut, like it's happened in the West, through society, conditionings and everything, television. So it becomes like we become disconnected from the divine. And once you practice, like Sahaja Yoga, once you practice it once, you feel vibrations in your hands. You feel what it's given you. And he introduced me to that practice. So when my hands became awakened, then you can feel more clearly what's true and what's not in your everyday existence. And so when he showed me Sahaja Yoga first, he showed me Sahaja Yoga. We did the process with the affirmations. It takes about half an hour. It's a wonderful practice. I have that. I have a group on Facebook where I show videos of myself reciting the affirmations, and it's a meditation that you close your eyes. Once you do that, once he showed me that first in his living room, then he drank his elixir in front of me, and the vibrations on my hands would speak to me. Maybe not in that moment. I was a little surprised because I'd heard of it, but I hadn't seen someone drink their elixir. But it gave me like a moment to kind of register everything, and my vibrations became clearer and clearer that I can trust this person, that what he's showing me is not just Sahaja Yoga, he's also showing me about the elixir, he's also showing me nose drinking, and he's showing me about the Tao of yin and yang. You know, and they were all vital that I got to see gradually, maybe after a month or two, I got to see that what he's showing me, even just the beginning, the scratching the surface, I got to see that it's logical, and that what he says when he speaks, Kelly, is logical, you know, and over a time over a while you get to know someone, you check out what they're saying, and it might take you a little while, but eventually you verify it for yourself. And the universe was also pushing me closer to him at the time. So there was a combination, yeah. And really, Sahaja Yoga, now I've been practicing for 25 years, Jerome, and I've been to a lot of the classes. They're all free, like all over the world. The meetings, they call them meetings, right? It's like a meditation meeting, but we do certain affirmations. We watch a video from the founder, her name was Sri Mataji Nimala Devi. We call her Sri Mataji for short. And her talks and her communication, and I've read some of her books, and yeah, everything has been verified. Naturally, I've had 25 years, but yeah, absolutely verified for me. From now that I'm drinking my elixir, and I'm 48 in a few weeks, and I feel that same magnitude from it. There's only been distractions recently that have been, say, for helping people, loved ones who need some help on their journey. So I don't want to call them distractions, of course, but it can be like it slows you down. And now returning from France, I'm like, I feel like everything is getting into place in the right moment now, you know?
Nice. So everything's synchronistic. It's coming all into alignment.
Exactly,
You
exactly.
know, you know the assignment. It's back in alignment. So, I love this, and thank you for just taking us on your journey, bringing us down memory lane, and just back to to the origins of how these things sprouted for you, how these things have been growing and flowing for you on your journey, and just this epic path that you're just living through. You're writing, each chapter of your story you're writing. It sounds so exciting, the story you're writing, because even in your autobiography, as you were speaking about loved ones, family members, when they look at us, on these paths, especially when we're going down paths of what people would call spirituality, when you're living a yogi path, I can only imagine the level of commitment, the level of focus, or the level of dedication that it would take, for someone like Kelly Ross Saliba. He doesn't seem like he lives a 9 to 5 life. You speaking to you, you don't seem to be living a 9 to 5 life. How was that with your family? Specifically, your father, I read in your autobiography that, your relationship with your father was not always, on kilter, that sometimes things were off balance when it came to him viewing you with Kelly Ra, you having a guru, or you having a guide, or having a mentor or a teacher to show you the way, but it wasn't always, a brighter day at that moment when you were going down that path. So can you talk about the challenges with that, and what gave you the commitment to still stay steadfast in your path?
Good question. Yes. I mean, I knew that underneath everything with my family, that they understood what I was doing, underneath. Um, and in terms of like it wasn't maybe so clear at the beginning. It was, but then because of the obstacles, and there was certain information that wasn't being shared to me, like about some family members, things that it was difficult for them to share, understandably, that they'd gone through as children or when they were younger. So due to that, there was like certain illusions around of like also you're wanting to affirm your place in the world as a man, you know, and your family. There might be obstruction there. They don't believe in what you're doing. So yeah, once we had a few in the earlier years, like it might say after 2 or 3 years, as I got to know Kelly, there were things that needed to be healed, and there would be clashes. There would be some sort of obstructions between me and Kelly, and that would pass on to my family. They'd see the pressure on me, or they'd see the stress around me, and they would understand, or they wouldn't understand some parts, and so it did create, yeah, friction. Because I was in my mid-20s, and my dad was very protective of his family. You know, he felt that he traveled to England as an immigrant, and he felt that he'd started a family and he had to protect them too, you know, from the dangerous world out there. And because of what he'd been through and he wasn't able to share it, it was like making him more protective, you know, like he's the one to the martyr, the savior of the family. So there was that, you know, in a very loving way. But of course, love can be like when it's too like smothering or, you know, overprotective. It can be also, you know, its own form of blockage. So I knew that, and I trusted in the universe that everything would unfold as it's supposed to, and you know, not to worry about the future. And Shramataji and Sahaja Yoga is very much about being in the present and being in the divine present. So you're in the divine love, in the bliss of the moment, yeah, and the joy of meditation is meant to be with you. Joy of the innocence, of the purity of the eternal child that we are. So when I'm practicing Sahaja Yoga, you know, and I'm getting the revelations, and I'm getting the information that not to stress, just to give them love, and the protection will take care of everything, and the divine protection. So yeah, there were clashes, and me and my dad, we reached an understanding when he passed that what he had to do on his spiritual journey was that the awakening that I was showing to him, I wasn't betraying the family, you know, I wasn't going away from Judaism, as my family is Jewish, maybe not religiously so seriously religious, but they were in a spiritual way, in a kindness way, religious, and so I wasn't going away, I wasn't betraying them. He got to see that, and that Sahaja Yoga, it affirms the religions, you know, it enlightens the religions, because it's not a religion in itself, it's a practice that brings all the religions together into the one union, and that Judaism and all the religions need Sahaja Yoga in that sense. They need people to awaken their sahasrara so they can discern and discriminate like what is true and what is not in the world, and you can learn from all the religions without having to be insular and divided. So yeah, he got to see that in his last days on the physical realm, on the 3D. He got to see that, and so it was a beautiful conclusion, you can say, to this state of our relationship, you know, of being on the father son. Yeah.
Okay. How did it feel for you to know that he finally got to witness that before he transitioned, you know, before he passed on?
It just was like a completion, and it showed that we're going to see each other again, and it's not the first time we met, and it's not over just because you feel like he's leaving now. It's not the end of our relationship in that way. We both felt that. I sensed it. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for that. You know, that really hits home just that you say those words, you know, about your father, about your family. You know,
Yeah.
I feel very blessed and very grateful to still have my parents, and I know that one day they won't be here. You know, one day they'll also go on, you know, to the hereafter. So just preparing myself for that day, you know, whenever it might be. They're up in age right now. They're in their 70s at the moment. So, you know, they battle with all sorts of health conditions. And, you know, what we're talking about here, this conversation, they they would never, probably in a million years, even if they were, unfortunately, even if they were on their deathbed,
Yeah.
it would be very challenging for them to accept a new idea like what you're talking about and what you illustrate in your books and
Yes.
what you're giving to the world. Because, I can imagine for you, Brother Sam, with wanting to get more of this information out to the public, you know, there's been times where you've been met with denial, like you've been turned around. And some people say that, you know, rejection is protection. Like redirection is almost like a divine protection. What would you say during those instances where, you might have been flying into the US, but you can't go through customs for some reason and they turn you around and send you back to the UK? Like, how did those times feel for you?
Yeah. You just feel that that place, I wasn't meant to go to that place in that way. I wasn't meant to, it was never meant for me to do that particular thing. So, like, we may have visions of the future, that we want the future to go a certain way, or we envisage the future going a certain way, and when it doesn't, that's where we can be disappointed, because we wanted something and it wasn't given to us. So I've always been that way, particularly when I got out of my struggles in 2015. I got out of some major struggles, like an internal prison I was in, internally, not externally. So after I went through that, then things like that, where there's like, oh, there's some rejection, or there's some, block in some way of the pathway you wanted. For me, it's part of the divine pathway that I wasn't meant to go that way, and not let it bother you. It's a small thing. We're much larger than that. That's usually, yeah. I just say, oh, I shrug it
Okay.
off.
I love how you take a bird's eye view and you take that vantage point, that higher perspective, within the collective, to say like, hey, maybe this wasn't the objective. Maybe this wasn't, the divine directive of me going in this direction. Maybe
Exactly.
it's just, another selection. Like I'm supposed to do something else, something somewhere else. Because, there was a book, and you said there was a few books that I know Kelly Ra submitted to you and gave to you and allowed you to read, and you said they changed your life. One of
Yes.
them was Friedrich Nietzsche, the Uberman or the Superman. What was that book?
Yes, that was it. He didn't want me to get the Nietzsche version, right? He wanted me to get the another version of the same, right, about the same prophet. It was the Zarathustra. Thus spake Zarathustra.
Zarathustra. Yeah, thus spake Zarathustra. So, what do you feel like was the lesson that you really got from that one? Because I still have yet to read that one, but why would you recommend it?
Yeah, actually, funnily enough, it wasn't like it was the book that I needed to get in that moment, but not to read the whole book, just to read the introduction, right?
Okay.
The introduction had enough, because I was looking for that book in London in the bookshops, and they didn't have it in the local bookshops around my university, which is like some major bookshops. They didn't have what I needed. I went to a few shops, and so that was strange, because again, this was into the year 2000. Of course, now you go to Amazon and you order it on your online, but in those days we didn't have Amazon yet. We had bookshops, and they could order it for you, right? So I went to several bookshops. They didn't have anything on Zarathustra that called Thus Spake Zarathustra. So I was a little puzzled. So when I went to America on holiday, vacation, and this is before I drank my elixir now. This was like the same summer that I went to Israel to drink my elixir the first time. That was maybe September, but this was about July. I went with my family to America, and I was in New York on the last part of the journey. It was about 10 days maybe in America. New York, I went with my brother to see Mission Impossible 2
Mm.
on the cinema, and I was walking home, and we were walking through the bookshops near Fifth Avenue, or on Fifth Avenue, and there's like little bookshops, the ones with the ladders that they're not very wide, the shops, and there's several of them, and one of them or two of them I went into, and the guy said, "Oh yes, I do have a book for you," the American guy, and he was mature. He went to get it from the shelf, and it was like this old-fashioned green book from Nietzsche. And so when I went to the park the next day, I was like, okay, I'll look at it in the Central Park. It was a nice day. And I sat in the park and I read the introduction. And the introduction was just like, it was like Kelly was talking to me through the book. in what he said to me to get two books. One was,
Oh, can you say that? Can you say that again?
yes, one of them was Bruce Lee, The Tao of Jeet Kune Do.
Okay.
The Tao, like the Tao, the way, or the
Mm-hmm.
Tao. And the second book was Thus Spake Zarathustra, but not without any author. Just that was the title. So
Mm-hmm.
that this green little book that I picked up, and when I looked at the introduction, it simply said that man needs to go across and be the bridge between the beast and the Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And man is the bridge, and then now we have to go over that bridge and enter the Superman realms. And just reading that, I was
Uh-oh. Couldn't hear you again.
I could see what Kelly was showing me was that we need to go over the bridge now and cross the bridge. I sussed out that from that very book, and reading that introduction, it was saying to me that's excuse me, it was saying to me that's what I need to do now, is join with Kelly, and essentially it's the calling now. I'm getting called up, and I'd been feeling it anyway up to that point in my 22, 23. This was I'd been sensing something. My kundalini was like pulsating, you can say, at a certain place, and it was I was using it as a power tool, you could say, when I was taking drugs still up until like I'd met Kelly, say, that summer of 2000. I was still with my friend. I went to Amsterdam. I took some mushrooms. There were things where I was getting into some dark places, and I could feel that I needed to awaken my kundalini, but I didn't know how to.
Mm.
So it was calling me, and also the physical was calling me, through the techniques and through like needing to nurture myself and needing to help myself to
Mm-hmm.
heal, to help the world. I could feel that it was a calling. The Matrix had just come out the year before. I just seen it in the cinema, and it was all like speaking to me in one message, one unified message.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for that because, The Matrix is still my favorite movie of all time. Like when I saw it in the movie theater with my
Classic.
father, it blew my mind. It blew me
Yeah,
away. It
yeah,
completely blew me away. And like to this day, I've seen that. That's probably the movie I've seen the most out of all movies. I've seen it hundreds of times. The Matrix, it's
yeah.
just, there's so many messages within it, so
Totally.
many underlying themes. And, just for people who may be also in a dark place, you mentioned just, there are a few times where you mentioned being in a dark place.
Yes.
No? Can you talk about what it what it was like to be in that dark place? Because I think many people have different definitions of darkness. Like, what does it
Yeah.
feel like to really be in darkness? What was that darkness like for you, and how did you make your way out of those dark places? Like, what was the catalyst to catapult you out of darkness to be able to again see the light when you don't see it?
There was always like I went during these 4 years I went through. They started in the year 2011, and they went on until 2015. It was almost exactly 4 years, one summer to one summer, and I was 33 to 37 during these times. So it started when I was 33, or just before 32, 33. It started really 10 years after I met Kelly, right? Because I met him 22 when I was 22, 23. So then 10 years later, almost exactly the same time, I was 32 and entering 33, and there were some harsh lessons that I needed to learn. And the only way that the divine was able to teach me these harsh lessons was to put me through a really difficult process. And to have, I feel that the divine had faith and trust in me, that I'd have enough faith, enough inner strength to get through that, because it was really not, there were some times where I almost wasn't here, in a physical sense, right? Because it was times where I felt like I was harming my family, and that I'd failed in my quest, and that I'd failed. But there was a tiny part of me that was hoping that I might be given another chance, and that I might be able to get out of that place, because it was such a tough place to be in, that it had to be all in that way, in order for me to be here now, And at the
Right.
time, yeah, at
Right.
the
I think
time,
even, just not to cut you off, but I think one of the
please.
reasons why I'm also asking is because if I remember correctly, was there a part where you talked about in your autobiography where you almost didn't even want to be here, like you tried to exit.
Yes.
Like there were many times, like maybe even many times, like maybe several times where you actually tried to to leave
Part. Yeah, to
this
part.
physical plane, but
Yeah.
you were like unsuccessful.
Yeah, I was unsuccessful. I was protected, and for sure, one of them I was really protected because it was dangerous. I mean, they were all potentially dangerous, but I do feel that all of them were just like God was saying, no, no, this is not your moment, and just wait a little longer, and everything will be revealed to you, right? That's because I thought I'd failed in my quest. Now, most people won't have to, they won't go through that, what I'm saying, in the way I'm saying it, because there was a unique moment for me in that I've met and I've been chosen, you can say. We've all been chosen, you know, we're here, and that is a divine gift that we've been chosen to exist. That's how I see it, you know, in that way. And at the time, I knew that it was a divine gift that I'd been chosen to exist, but I felt that God was saying to me that you have to go, that you've caused enough trouble now, and you know, I can't like imagine that I was that kind of person before, that I would never dream of that. But the situation had been created around me where I felt like I was a burden, and it was better that I wasn't here, right? Um, and I hadn't done anything that bad, but because I was chosen and I was given a responsibility of the quest of sharing the nose drinking and the combination with how it is with Sahaja Yoga, and now I've learned breath work these last 5 years and how that intertwines with Sahaja Yoga and Elixir. So I didn't know all of that yet, what was to come, what was to be, but I knew that I had a quest, and I was chosen, and so because I felt I'd failed, I had to go through that, yeah, and it was horrible. But there was a tiny part of me that had hope that I might be given another chance. You know, I was into like fantasy of movies where a person gets to like It's a Wonderful Life. You know, Americans will know that you know an angel comes to him and shows him, look what happens if you're not here. You know what happens to the world. So that happened to me, and the last part, a miracle happened, where to get out of this, really, I just had kept a little faith and a little hope to say, maybe I'll be given another chance. I used to ask God, please, God, you know, can I be given another chance to return into the good realms? Because I'd felt that I'd been, you know, I'd angered God, and I'd made mistakes, and God wasn't going to return me into the higher realms that I wanted to be in. So I used to ask Him often during these tough years, in a prayer, in the form of a prayer. But then part of me would be like, no, it's too late now. You can't, you know, you messed up now. Like it's over. So this is part of your left channel, which is part of Sahaja Yoga, right? Your left channel is the past, and it's all the collective subconscious, and the right channel is the future and the superconscious, right? And the center is the present, yeah? And the Kundalini rises through the center. So even though I knew Sahaja Yoga during these 4 years, I had to go through this. Like God had put me in a place where I had to feel like I'd failed, and everyone else around me, brother Jerome, in the community was like, oh yeah, like Sam, you know, he's done, you know, like they'd see me in the street, or family members would see me, and it would be like I'd give them the vibe that I'm finished. Everyone thought I was not going to return. I was overweight, and then I went to Spain and I just stayed for 2 weeks. But in those 2 weeks, I got a transformation. I got a reawakening. The universe said to me, it's okay, those 4 years that you've been on ice, literally, this is how I got out of it. I went to Spain on holiday, and I wasn't planning on returning, let's just say. I was going to do something drastic, right? There was nothing for me in London. I said to my family goodbye. I was like, yeah, I'm just going on holiday. And when I got there, a miracle began, just like an angel arrived. Everyone was being nice to me. Children started smiling at me again. People started smiling in the street. I was not this like ugly duckling anymore, right? That's exactly how it felt. And I just wanted to say that the gift, the power of Sahaja Yoga is that vibrations, you make everyone, you change the place around you, and whatever you're channeling from within will channel from without. So because I had all these things to go through, now they've been cleared, then all the joy was being channeled out of me, and everyone responded to it. The whole world like could see me again, you know.
Wow, that is beautiful. Just responding to the joy. I love the way that you put it, like how, there's a law of correspondence, as within, so without, as above, so below. People are responding, to the joy that's being emitted, the transmission, the energy frequency that's coming out, that we see, that we frequently see that frequency. And
Yes.
even the dichotomy, the separation of the realms. I don't hear very often people talking about these realms, the good realm or a negative realm or a positive realm or a bad
Yes.
realm or a glad realm or a sad realm, like praying to be back in the good realms, praying to be back in good standing with the cosmos or with the universe, praying to be back, like can I just get back to those realms on this plane, within this
Yes.
earthly plane. Can I have heaven on earth? Can I have that? Can you welcome me back into the good graces? So thank you for bringing in that piece, because you know another thing that I would love to ask, Brother Sam, is why do you feel like the knowledge about the elixir, Shivambu, Urine Therapy, why do you feel like it's been hidden, or do you feel like it's been hidden in plain sight? We hear so many fantastical things about people surviving on their own water. You hear somebody stranded at sea, they're surrounded by seawater. If they drink the seawater, they'll dehydrate, they'll die, but they manage to survive like over 150 days drinking their own urine. And then you hear about somebody else in Utah or
Yeah.
somebody else in the mountains. They're climbing in a certain scenario where they get trapped and their leg is caught and they can't move. They can't call for help. They're in an area with no reception. They drink their own urine. They survive. Somebody gets stranded out, in the jungle and they have no food, no water, or somebody in a desert, like so many scenarios where people have survived drinking their
Yeah.
own water.
Sure.
But why don't we know about this?
Yes, I mean, it seems to be that there's obstacles to self-healing, and a lot of them started in what appears. I've seen different sources, and it seems to correlate with my travels. Is that a lot of the natural medicine and native healing techniques were suppressed, and have not been recognized for about a century now, given second place to the Western medicine and allopathic medicine. um, and so the elixir, like you can't even drink it when you're on a Western medicine. Like if you're on chemicals, it's not advised. You can drink it, of course, but it's not advised to drink it while you're on Western medical, because drugs and pills or whatever it might be. So it shows you that they kind of the two of them are not parallel. They cannot be together. So if you've got the allopathic being pushed, so the elixir is then always going to be like second place and demonized and ostracized. And conditions have been put upon it, it seems, for the last 100 years, um, to stop you from learning about it. And probably suppressed a lot of books and native knowledge that may have been out there by now. That a lot of it's probably been suppressed and hushed, hush, hush, hush. So I'd say that's where it emanates from, that you can't make a profit out of it. And it's also mankind maybe has not been ready to love himself to that extent. And it's all synchronizing alongside the exposure of certain, suppression by certain groups that are making money, alongside the awakening of mankind and womankind. It seems to be happening simultaneously, that people are starting to get more open to it, and with the exposure to what's been suppressed, and what you need to do as for your own responsibility is to learn about natural medicine for yourself first, and then pass it on. That's what everyone's responsibility really is for themselves, isn't it?
For sure. And even as you talk about, the spreading of the information and the suppression, the suppression of
Yes.
information when it comes to it. I've read certain books, I've read your books, a couple of yours I've read, The Water of Life by John Armstrong. I've read, Your Own Perfect Medicine by Martha Christie.
Uh-huh.
And just they're talking about it's curing all sorts of things, just
Yeah.
all sorts of illnesses and ailments and dis-ease and you know, cancers and just all sorts of things that we think are incurable, and we have the remedy right at our disposal. It just seems so strange and paradoxical that we're flushing the medicine down the toilet every day.
Yeah, it does to me. And I talk to people about it, and they look at me the same way they did 25 years ago. They're like baffled, not ready for it. Or so, some are maybe one day. They need time, and some are just like, you wouldn't even say it to them. Some people yet.
So you do use your discretion when it comes to people.
Yeah, you got to be. I feel like the one thing I will learn at the beginning is that you have to share it with people who you feel will respect it, and I haven't always done that, and so you get people reacting in a certain way, and they're straight away that they weren't ready to hear it, and you get a reaction that you don't want.
Yeah. And with that reaction, I can understand now why there's people that I've personally talked to, in the acting industry, actors and actresses, and in the
Yes,
modeling industry, different
sure.
models
Yes,
who they won't speak about it, but behind closed doors, hush hush behind closed doors, they're
sure.
using it topically on their skin, using it for more youthful looking,
Yes,
beautifying, different products. I
sure.
remember one of my partners in the past, she was a manager at a day spa. So she was no stranger to all sorts of beauty products, health products, and she traded when she started doing urine therapy. She traded her shampoo, her conditioner, her moisturizer, her toner, her like everything when it came to the face and everything. She traded it all for her own water, and she just started using her own water. You know,
Brilliant. Exactly. It covers the lot. It's
she was like, "Why do I need all this when I can just use this?"
Yeah, just I use oil is probably the only thing. Soap before when I wash, and then oil at the end of the elixir of drinking, and putting it in your eyes and in your ears and in your nose. I feel like every day that's an essential that I want to reintroduce now, because, like I said, some of my practices have shrunk over the last few years with writing the books. Firstly, that took a lot of attention away, and I just get up and I'd often just start working on the book. And I had two books I was kind of finishing at the same time. So that was last year. So my practices have waned from what I'd like to do. But now I've returned from France, and I've been with my friend in France and drunk my elixir while having in my eyes elixir at the same time. And that's been like, wow. And your mouth as well. You put some in your mouth, you drink from your nose, and you have elixir. Like maybe you wear some goggles and you look at the sky with elixir in your eyes, and you drink from your nose, and you have elixir in your mouth. And after you do that, your eyes, like, they feel like they're brand new again. Like, just like Neo when he says, "Oh, I haven't used my eyes before." It's like it feels that way. Like you need to return them to the womb again.
Wow. Wow. So it's like every orifice, every opening, every orifice, every portal. Like these pores are all portal. These openings are like doorways that we can open, these pathways that we can, open to achieve, different states of consciousness, even, the lucid dreaming, the astral traveling, like the things in the metaphysical plane can
Yes.
become more lucid, more vivid, more online as well with the drinking of the elixir.
Yeah, and the breath work I found is the natural, the safe way. So with Sahaja Yoga information, how to also protect yourself and protect your aura in Sahaja Yoga, right? You learn ways to protect yourself, and also with the mantra, you learn ways to clean places. Like you go to places and I've cleaned. I've worked. I worked in a lot of schools, and I often go to the playground or the yard, or the classroom before the children arrive. I'll say a mantra and bless the room and ask for protection. And that often I'll do that wherever I go, parties. So having the combination of that with the nose drinking to help you to facilitate the third, opening the third eye, and also opening the nostrils to breathe from the nose more powerfully. So when I drink from my nose, then I'll lay down and do a breath session like Wim Hof. I'll do the circular breathing for maybe an hour. I'll do a session, an hour. And during that hour, you reach such peaceful and calm, and you can say like they are celestial states of being where you're in between the dreams and the meditation, the inner silence, and you're entering the dream realms almost, but you're aware of your being,
Yeah.
and you can suspend your breath through doing so much breathing, say for an hour, or 45 minutes. Eventually you get to a place where you don't have to breathe because you've got so
Mm.
much oxygen in your system, right?
Wow.
Then you just relax your body. You're not holding your breath, you just relax it, and you lay there with your eyes are closed and the music's playing, and you go to different states of celestial,
Mm.
wow, bliss, real bliss and love. Divine.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of oxidization, really oxidating, really oxygenating the whole body, at a cellular and a cellular level, combined with the breath work used in tandem, used in combination in that way to really lift the vibration in that way. Have there been times, Brother Sam, where you didn't even feel like eating? Like, have there been times where drinking your elixir has helped with fasting, where you only needed to drink through your nose and you never needed to chew anything with your mouth? Have you ever gone through periods like that?
There has been, and um, I've gone through like some fasts without the elixir. Even I've done without it, and then now also with the elixir. So yeah, it's like I've been a bit in London, and it's been a little hectic. But I did some fasting when I was in India in 2020, in 2021, some longer term fasting. So yeah, I haven't explored it enough, but again, it's now is when I've returned now from France and been with the raw foodist that I want to do some fasts. And like Kelly himself, once he did a 90-day, 100-day fast on only the nose. Nothing was entering his mouth for about 100 days. And he was getting slimmer, and he was able to continue, but then it just reached a point where, okay, he's affirmed it now. He's done 3 months, and let's now return to the mouth. But yeah, I mean, I love all that, but there's been like because of the pressures of certain things that needed to be healed, like from childhood, and not so much myself, because when I did the breath work so much in Goa, yeah, I studied it in 2020. I trained to be a breath coach, and I stayed there for 2.5 years. And when I was doing that, yeah, my quality of life was different, and my way of life was different. When I returned in 2022, and I've been returning every sort of winter to India and returning to England in the summer, there's been certain things here with family, with helping a friend out, and they've been like, in a way, they're excuses after a while because it's up to you to change your ways, right? If you're helping someone else, a family member or a few family members, then through certain grief or whatever, then eventually, yeah, you're helping them, but make sure you're helping yourself. So now I'm at that stage now where it's year of the snake right now, right, in the Chinese, and that's my year, right, because I'll be 48 in August this month. So it's my because it's multiples of 4. It's my 12th time again to be the eagle, you can say, right?
Okay, Virgo?
Yeah, I'm Virgo,
Okay.
exactly.
Awesome.
And I'm
Awesome.
also I'm also Leo because in the Vedic, I'm so close to the beginning. I moved to Leo in the
Mhm.
Indian Eastern, and the Chinese are the snake. So because it's my year, I need to make it my year. I need to make it an advantage that I'm using this year to make leaps.
Mhm.
So now returning from France and learning and talking to you in this moment, it's been affirmed anyway that yeah, I want to go through the fasting again because I know I did 36 hours and it was fantastic. I could feel because Sahaja Yoga is all about vibration, as I said. So everything you do in Sahaja Yoga, when you practice, is like amplified. So you get the bliss of breath, the joy of breath work. I get it amplified. The nose drinking, I get it amplified. When I am intimate, which is meant to be respected and with someone that you love. In that way. So it's not always frequent, but when I am intimate, it's the same. It's like absolutely incredibly blissful. All the levels, and that's also maintaining the Taoist intimacy. The man maintains the entire process, the orgasm, everything. He doesn't release. So when you combine all the techniques with the vibrations heightened and amplified, so it's like bliss and joy. When you're doing something right, you're getting bliss and joy from it. And all these practices That's what they give me. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Bliss and joy. I
Yeah.
love that. Like just a double, it's hitting you
Yeah.
with both the
Yeah.
bliss and the joy at the
Yeah.
same time. You're just getting hit from every angle, just from every angel.
Yeah.
So my goodness, when you're talking about these methods and modalities, there was also one that I got from your first book about the pyramid process, the pyramid
Yes.
point.
Yes.
I tried to do the arching the back. I remember I was slowly beginning to like do the pyramid point process
Yeah.
that you illustrated in that book. Do you still do that one regularly?
Actually, yeah, I've had to kind of go back, return to the basics again, right? Like I had to return to the basics because during these 4 years, which was 2011, 2015, when I was going through my struggles, I put on weight. I stopped doing the bridge, which with the pyramid. I stopped doing the bridges, which is going back on the wall or going
Yeah.
back without the wall. When you get better at it, you don't need the wall anymore, right? So I stopped doing it for a while, and I have restarted. I damaged my knee in 2022, yeah, because of years of football.
Mm.
Um, since I was young, I stopped playing like 20 years ago, but I played a lot, and then I danced a lot. I love dancing, and then when I was going to the toilet, often we squat, like on the toilet seat. You get
Mhm.
up on the toilet like that, right? To go to the toilet proper, not to sit on the toilet seat, but to get up on it with your feet,
Right.
right?
Right.
So your back is straight, or do it on the floor. Of course, you can do it, into the earth. But because I was doing that, I damaged my knee a bit more. Like I wasn't looking after it during 2020 up to 2022, and I tore my meniscus in double places. So the
Mm.
last few years, I've been working more on like push-ups
Hmm.
and swimming and walking to get my leg better, and not too many bridges because I was getting the strength back. But I've started to do them on the wall again, just like going back to the basics. And it feels like I need to strengthen the lower muscles in the lower back, and it's doing it for me, and all the muscles remember it, and it is a absolutely like essential. Bridge is essential for to be supple and to have your core strength. It's fantastic move, the bridge,
Okay.
really
So
vital.
if there was one movement that people could master, you're saying the bridge, that
Yeah,
movement right there it would cover like so many bases for people.
very many of the core muscles. Yeah, not so
Okay.
much the arms or the shoulders. So the arms or the shoulders, you could do maybe like as you advance the bridge. Yes, you do get a definition like of all the places you could say
Mhm.
as you advance it. So the basic bridge is excellent, which is with the hands, and then the next level was the one without the hands that I got
Mm.
to learn to do, where you put your hands like that, and you go back, slowly, and as you go back, your your legs, bend nicely, and your butt lands on the back of your legs, kind of thing,
Mm.
right? So you bend backwards, and as your bum lands on the back of your feet, your head just gently touches the floor, and then you
Wow.
come up again. You come up again, and it's
Wow.
wow, what a feeling! That is real bliss.
And it seems very heart opening as well. Like
Yeah,
you're opening your chest, you're opening
yeah,
your heart, you're kind
sure,
of inviting more love,
yes, sure,
inwards and outwards. You're kind of expanding that heart chakra as well. It seems very, very
completely,
vibrant in that area.
totally.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So, as we conclude, I would love to hear just for anybody listening to you, Brother Sam, and if this is their first time ever hearing anything about urine therapy, anything about the elixir, your own
Uh-huh.
perfect medicine, something that your body is, filtering and making, this ultra filtered plasma every day. For someone who's never even taken a sip, never even contemplated having a drop,
Yes,
but they
yes.
feel like they're inclined to do it, what would you advise for a person that has been dealing with a lot of healing, health issues, complications, and frustration with the body, but they feel like this might be something they want to give a try? What would you advise?
Okay, so first I would recommend to read some information about it because not everyone is the same, but on a sort of majority level, I would say that reading about it first, and not just the scientific evidence and the stories, the many testimonies that you've read about, I'm sure, as you mentioned in in the Water of Life, or in the Golden Fountain book that was written by Van der Kroon, Cohen van der Kroon, a Dutch author. There's many testimonies and examples of where situations where it's helped and healed someone, even in severe cases of illness. You know, people have been cured within weeks, a few weeks, where doctors had said that there's no help. And often doctors will say that about certain diseases. They'll say there's nothing else we can do, right? Because allopathic and this type of medicine has limitations. It's not from a divine source, you can say, you know. So the ability of healing, that's on a more maybe drastic level when you have to heal someone like that. But even for a day-to-day benefit of what it gives you, is to read about it and to listen to the people who talk about it and the way they speak about themselves and the way they speak about the world. The authors and the people like yourself, like oneself, who share about these practices. Yeah. To listen to them on all levels, not just about the elixir, not to be so narrow-minded. And once you've read about it and you've got your picture, the spiritual essence of it, the origins in the Hindu faith also, they go thousands of years, and the Taoists also talk about drinking elixir. You can do some research. That everyone nowadays, you know, can be their own scientist, their own investigator. And then I would also recommend to check out Sahaja Yoga near you, because that helps you to verify vibrations. And there may be a workshop or a class, a meeting near you, because they're all over the world and they're free. So just go once even. You get vibrations on your hands. You can feel truth. Even now, as I'm speaking about the elixir, or about to, you can feel the vibrations of what it's giving you. And then, yeah, if you feel that you're brave enough now, you haven't got any chemicals in your body, you're not eating meat, then you can, I feel like, yeah, that person will be able to hopefully take that step, you know, to verify, is it really so? Like, do I really feel great when I drink it? You know, the way that I did.
Okay. And you
Yeah.
said that a person who's consuming animal flesh, you're saying it's not really conducive for them to be drinking?
Yeah, I mean that's what's talked about in the several books. They say not to have red meat, right? Because even at the time I was pescatarian, you know, I was vegetarian, but I was eating seafood at the time. And now I'm vegan and I'm getting into raw again, where I won't be stuck on vegan and cooked. But at the time I was eating fish, I was eating egg, I was eating dairy, right? 20 years, 25 years ago, and it still through the nose it benefited me massively, you know. Like I did fast a lot in the daytime, and I did eat hemp seeds and maybe just like an apple, organic pear, the whole day, and that amplified the elixir daily. So if
Mm.
a person wanted to cure or wanted to see the more like accelerated benefits, and it'd be good for them to be vegan, to be raw, at least for the day until maybe the evening, afternoon, and to be raw and not to eat, to see the power of it. If they're at work, maybe some fruit, just have fruit quietly, you know, go to the toilet, drink it from your mouth first. After, say, a month, drink it from your nose as well as your mouth. And you can do it during the day, you know, it's not just once in the morning. You'll realize that, yeah, it's the best one is the morning. It's the most potent one to give you that total, like, wow. But then to continue doing it during the day, not to eat and to drink your elixir, and you'll see that it takes over from the appetite of food,
Mhm.
and it actually will give you that same euphoric feeling of wow. As long as you don't like eat lots of cooked food and do something like look at your phone all day, or you know, if you're stuck in an office, you know, you need to have open the window or get a plant, get some crystals, you know, to be sensitive to your environment. That would help the person to feel it more sensitively. Yeah, I feel that.
For sure, for sure. I agree. You know, there's definitely been so many times throughout my journey as well when I was following you and following, you know, people like Monica Shuitt, you know,
Yes,
people like Brother Sage, you know, people like We Do Shivambu, like so many people who were speaking about this and teaching
yes,
about this and,
yes,
you know, preaching about this, that when I was just on juices and coconut water, you know, the elixir just tasted like water. It was just like water, you know? It was just, you know, there wasn't really like anything super, you know, off-putting or not palatable. But if I had at the time, if I was eating, you know, salty chips or salty food or spicy food or
Yes.
sweet food or tangy things, like it was the perfect biofeedback to let me know, okay, you don't want this in your system because, you know, if the elixir is not palatable, then that means this is not supposed to be there. You know, you're not supposed to
Totally.
be having that. So it was actually just letting me know what not to put in my body because it would put a stop to that. Yeah, it wouldn't be palatable. Yeah.
I hear you. I know. It's a great indicator for your what you put in you and a reaction. You know, a reaction has a reaction.
Right.
So it's a great, it's an instant. Even your mood, your vibe, you can change how you feel by what you put in you, and we're not sensitive to that enough.
Absolutely. Your food affects your mood completely.
Yeah,
Completely.
yes.
So, brother, thank you so much for showing up today. Like, thank you for coming on here,
Yes.
sharing your testimony, just sharing your words of wisdom from your story and your journey and all of your learnings surrounding this topic that has been so misunderstood in society. And I think, you know, I trust that, you know, in the coming years, more and more people will open their minds to it because just as you say, you know, it's in the spiritual text, it's in the scriptures, you know, it's in, you know, with so I mean millions of Chinese, millions of Hindu, Indian, like all sorts of different customs and cultures, and just
Sure.
this consciousness is available for the people who choose it, you know. But
Exactly.
yeah, there's no need to lose it. Yeah, and we
Yes.
learn how to use it. So blessings, brother. Thank you for coming on, and
Yes.
just
One love.
continue,
Thanks, brother.
continue.
God
Yeah.
bless. Thanks very much. I'm really grateful that we can talk together. It's been really special, you know, and I hope we can talk soon again. Yeah?
Yeah, yeah. Perhaps next time you can bring Kelly. We can have
Sure.
that perspective from Kelly Ra as well.
I'll be glad to. Absolutely.
Awesome. All
Okay.
right. Well, take
Thanks.
care.
All the best. Take care.
Take care,
Ciao.
brother. Namaste. Ciao.
Ciao.